River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Niner Nuts. I am Dan, here along with Eric and James. Gentlemen, say hello.
What's up, Niner Nation? But you're all feeling good.
Yeah, woo, buddy.
Oh boy, you're almost there. You're almost there.
Yes, indeed. I don't know why you're listening to this if you didn't watch the game last night, but nothing particularly eventful happened, fortunately. Of course I'm lying through my teeth, guys. We won the NFC title for the second time in 4 years or 5 years. I can't math right. This was our third NFC title game in a row, and third time's the charm. I put it into existence in my name tag last week. We just had to play at home, apparently, because that was the last time we won. Not in quite as dramatic fashion, though. We won 34-31. My God, I'll just run through the nerdy numbers. Purdy, 267, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, only took 2 sacks. Christian McCaffrey, well over 100 total yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Elijah Mitchell, he vultured the last one. Thankfully, Christian didn't have a bad injury, thank God, after he landed on his head. Deebo Samuel led the receivers, 8 for 89, but Brandon stole the show with his 3 dramatic catches for 68 yards and a tutty. And then shout out Juszczyk too. He had some remarkable catches, his only 2. And then shout out Armstead for the critical fumble recovery that he had. Jared Goff, 273, 1 and 2 sacks. David Montgomery, we're obviously going to talk about how he ran us over for 93 yards. Gibbs, 45 yards. And why not? They're wide receiver too. 1 carry for 42 yards and a touchdown. I think Jamison Williams is his name. Just how we screwed up that play. But then on the receiving end...
Oh, go ahead. Keep going, Dan. Keep going, Dan.
I was just going to say, on their receiving end, we held St. Brown under 100 yards for 87 and no touchdowns. Sam Laporta led it all, though, with 9 for 97. And yeah, I said Gibbs had the fumble. Okay. All that out of the way. You can read those wherever. What were you going to say, James?
I have a question. What was Purdy's yardage again?
It was
267, I think.
267, 1 pick, 1 touchdown, 2 sacks for an 89 rating.
Okay, so it wasn't 292. So
No.
I was thinking we came a Kittle touchdown and a St. Brown touchdown from hitting $850.
What were they saying about Dan Campbell? You live by the sword and you die by the sword. I live by the Kittle touchdown and die by the Kittle touchdown. So
yes, I mean, I was at least right and said McCaffrey was going to score 2 touchdowns. I've called that for 2 weeks in a row now. I was the one who pushed for McCaffrey over 1.5 touchdowns.
I was the one that was crap talking Sutton all week, and he gave up a Brandon touchdown. So we should have put Brandon in the ticket. That was my bad going with Kittle instead. But no, I don't know. I guess just before the analytical, obviously we're going to get into like more analytical talk, but I mean just raw emotion side of it. I'll try to keep this short, but my God, what an emotional roller coaster this game was to not show up in the run defense at all. That was the matchup that we were talking about. I had faith that we were going to keep Purdy upright, and for the most part we did, but my God, we should not have won this game with how bad our run defense was. It was atrocious. I think we were giving up like 8 yards a run, and just it opened up everything. You stopped the run to have some fun. We couldn't stop the run, and we were getting bent over a fence. The Lions couldn't do anything wrong, and I've seen this song and dance before. Like, yeah, we beat Green Bay in a comeback, but oh no, it looks like we're gonna have another Kyle can't come back because historically he can't. And BCB came out. We got very lucky with the hand of God tipping that ball to Brandon and then flicking the ball out of Jahmyr Gibbs's hands for that fumble. And, wow, 24-7 and then 27-7 were at the tail of two halves. And I mean, I don't know. Unless we're getting blown out like 45-0 before halftime in the Super Bowl, I'm speechless. I'm shocked and speechless, and I love these guys. I'm so effing proud of these guys. I was sobbing when the game was over. I can't believe I really can't believe we did it. That's my emotional take on the game. They called the Lions the team of destiny, and they probably still will. I'm not going to oversell it, but like, my God, guys, this team really. I'll go ahead and say it. I really think we have a good shot at beating the Chiefs. The way that they look versus the way that we overcame adversity. I'm very, very excited about the game 2 weeks from now.
Well, yeah, it bodes well now that the 49ers have played 2 games in a row and have come back from being down, especially in the playoffs. But sometimes, that can also bite you in the butt. You get all emotional over these comeback wins, and you the next week come out and lay an egg. So let's hope that they can keep this momentum going, and that they don't have to do this in the Super Bowl. They don't have to play 17 points behind in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, 100%. Eric, how emotional was it for you?
It was a crazy roller coaster of emotions from top to bottom. I mean, it started off with a stupid receiver sweep for a score, and then it was just like, oh no. I'm like, here we go. I mean, like you said, Dan, they were running up the field on us like nonstop. We couldn't slow them down at all. And, it was just everything that, we had talked about on the pod last week was going wrong. And it was like, this is exactly what we said could be the likely outcome and what we were terrified of. And it was coming to life. And for the first half of the game, that was what it was. It was terrible. I mean, there was no other way to put it. I mean, we just looked like we didn't even belong in the NFC Championship game. And then, I don't know, they went in and gave the greatest halftime speech of all time speeches. And they came out, and the 49ers team that came out in the second half was a completely different team. They were able to generate all of the offense that they needed. They were able to make defensive stops. We talked about on the pod, James, and you were a big proponent of it, talking about, how the Lions were going to go for it on fourth down, and the 49ers were going to need to get some critical stops on fourth down to slow the momentum and slow them down and change kind of the complexity of the game. And the 49ers did that. Whether or not it was really them or their people just dropped the ball, whatever, but still they got the stop. And it turned the entire game around. And, that team that came out and played in the second half, if that team could show up for an entire game, they'll blast the Chiefs out of the friggin' Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. The Chiefs would have no shot. I don't know that we can play an entire game like that. I would love to see it. We haven't seen it for a few weeks now, but I mean, it's in there. It lives. It exists. We just saw it for a half against the Chiefs or the Lions. So let's hope we can put it together and do that. But I mean, I was standing up in my living room for the last 5 minutes of the game, just, inches from the TV, like just trying to will the team on. And it was just amazing to see, an amazing victory. And I'm loving every minute of it. And I can't wait for 2 weeks from now when we're playing in the Super Bowl with a chance to avenge our loss from 4 years ago.
Now, who do you think will endure the Raiders fans curse the more? Will the Raiders fans curse Chiefs fans more, or will they curse 49ers fans more in this game, being that it's played at the Raiders Stadium and the history between, the division and the Chiefs, and then the history with San Francisco and the Bay? Like, who are Raiders fans going to cheer for?
They have to hate the Chiefs more, right? I mean, because they're interdivision rivalry, and I mean all that stuff. I mean, I think we're just like a rivalry of like proximity. I don't think it's really ever been a big deal.
Yeah, very early when you started coming on, like maybe the first, or maybe it was the first time we had you on. I asked you about that, the rivalry, just because you're more familiar with the history than I am. Like, and you said, yeah, no, the Raiders, like, yeah, we were neighbors. Like, that was it. Like,
yeah.
So it's got to. I agree. It's got to be the Chiefs just because they're in their division. I want to ask you though, James. Do you have any reservations now about being so ride or die with the analytics, like the way Dan Campbell never kicked? He just was. I mean, give him credit for sticking to his character. Like he played exactly how he said he was going to, and this time it didn't work. Like,
Well,
do you have any reservations about the analytics
I don't think
now?
Honestly, I don't think he played. I think the crucial call. There's two crucial calls that probably came down to it. One, not going for the touchdown at the end of the second half when you're 2 yards away. You got the 49ers on the ropes. Like that's where it's like, okay, yeah, you make it a 3-score game, but 21-point lead versus 17-point lead. And if you look at where that 4 points would have added up in this game, if you get that, then the 49ers have to go for 2 at some point, which could have changed the complexity of the game. And like I said, like I'm a big proponent on, like, if you got them on the ropes, you need to step on the gas, and you're 2 yards away from taking a 3-touchdown lead. I think there's plenty of coaches who want to break a curse or want to break a franchise's history of losing and things like that. That's what you got to do. I didn't agree with the call there. I thought about it. I was like, yeah, maybe it's the 3-touchdown game, but I still didn't really like that call. I think he should have been aggressive there and, gone for it. Like I said, you have the 49ers on the rope. You go up 3 touchdowns before halftime. Changes the whole complexity of the game. And, the only other time, I guess, when they were down a field goal the second time, and they went for it on 4th and 3 instead of kicking the field goal and at least tying the game. That's where I'll say he was probably too aggressive in that spot. Like if you got stopped once in the same situation, you have the same, situation. I mean, it wasn't like being on the 2-yard line. It was you're farther out, kick the field goal, tie the game. Because if you do that, 49ers go and score, you came and score a touchdown, like we're in a shootout, So I get why he went forward on 4th down in the second half the second time or the first time, but the second time he needed to really feel the game and understand, like, hey, maybe we kick a field goal here. So I think those were the 2 mistakes that he made in, with the analytics, not being aggressive enough at the end of the first half, and then being overly aggressive in the second half when you had a second chance to tie the game, and you forego it to go for it on 4th down. So
yeah. I got to give a shout out to our defensive team too, figuring out the extended staff, not just Steve Welks, figuring out where to plug the holes on that offense, because I saw one person's take earlier today that said that was questioning why they abandoned the run. We figured it out. We actually finally figured out how to stop the run in the second half, outside of like maybe there was like 1 or 2 carries that broke out, but for outside of that, we finally figured it out. So we had to pass, and then we were able to exploit Jared Goff is terrible when he's on the move or out of the pocket. Like,
yeah.
I couldn't believe, because I didn't watch Lions games that much, I could not believe how bad Jared Goff threw in the second half. And it was all because Nick Bosa and Chase Young, whatever they did at halftime, I was ready to write off Young especially, and then Gibson in the backfield too. Gibson was having a terrible game till he forced that fumble. But no, Chase Young turned it on. Nick Bosa got 2 sacks. Eric, do you have any... Oh, I was going to say, Eric, did you have any thoughts on the analytics side?
Yeah, well, I want to circle back to what James said, and I totally agree with you 100% on that, James. I think in the situation where you were talking about there at the end of the first half, when the Lions had that 4th and 2 or 4th and 3 or whatever it was to go for the end zone, I totally believe, especially with as aggressive as they had been playing all year long and going for it on 4th down and stuff like that, knowing that they were a team that played that way, I think, and by the way, totally 100% grateful that they didn't do it.
I'm sure you are.
But I mean, I was sitting there in my living room like, oh man, they're going to go for this. They're going to go for this and get a touchdown and just dagger it.
I mean, I honestly was waiting for a fake field goal. Like,
Yeah.
I was just seriously like he's just suckering them in, thinking they're going for a field goal. Like somebody's going to go out wide right and they're going to throw a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Like a center or an end, so.
Yeah, that gets called back because the guy wasn't eligible.
Right. Yeah, but I totally agree with you. I think they should have. If I'm the Lions in that situation, we have done everything that we wanted to do in this first half. We've marched up and down the field. We've been completely unstoppable for 58 minutes, or not 58 minutes, 28 minutes at this point in time. I'm going for the touchdown because I feel if I get a touchdown, it's over. It's a kill shot. Like there's no chance they're going to come back. Yeah. And so I would have went for it in that situation. And then I agree with you too on the second time when they went for on fourth down in the second half. I think again, we just talked a little bit about momentum there, where they had all the momentum in the first half, could do nothing wrong. Everything was going their way. I think in the second half, you have to read the room a little bit and go, ooh, we're really kind of struggling here. We're barely kind of hanging on. They're really pounding it to us. I mean, it was probably, I don't remember what it was at the time, but it's probably like 21-0 or something at the time in terms of the score. And it was like, maybe we should just throw up a 3 on the board to just get ourselves on the board. Let's tie up this game at whatever it would have been at that point in time. And, we're even again. And we're let's stick around. And I think that he just kind of misread. You talk about the analytics and stuff, and analytics don't take the momentum and the flow and the play of the game into consideration. And I think in that second instance there, I think he just didn't take the flow of the game into consideration there. And they should have, again, very grateful. Thank you for not kicking the field goal. But I think that they should have kicked the field goal in that situation. I get it. They were aggressive all year long. That was their MO. They went for it. They tried and they pushed. And I mean, so he didn't really deviate, from his plan.
That's what got him there. I mean, that's what got him there. So but he felt like he was going to live and die by the analytics, and
it's unwavering faith to your players, the guys that you've been cheerleading on the entire year. And like you said, they got there because of this new aggressive attitude that they've been cultivating for the last 3 years. And there's a lot to analyze in the offseason about, okay, how do we maintain this? But yeah, no, this for them, this is just going to be a nice, hard life lesson that, like, okay, well, maybe we need to scale it back a little bit, maybe cherry pick a little bit more, but they still have a phenomenal foundation to work on. I can't believe there's going to be that much turnover in the roster. Dan's obviously not going anywhere. He probably is going to get an extension. Like,
yeah. I mean, there was another guy, Brandon Staley from the Chargers, that was a big analytics guy. And, we see where he ended up.
He totally used them in the wrong way. Like, come on. Like he whatever he saw in the numbers, he was reading wrong. Like that's just plain and simple. He was just reading them wrong.
Yeah. Dan didn't blow a 24-point lead, or however, what was it, 28 points?
28. He didn't blow a 28-point lead.
Yeah.
The Jaguars,
I'm just saying that when you rely specifically on analytics and don't take that flow and the feel of the game into consideration every now and then, you're eventually probably going to end up on the outs at some point in time.
But to the point though, we're talking about Brandon Staley and analytics. Doug Peterson in that game followed analytics too. They were down by 14 with 5 minutes to go in that game. They score a touchdown. Analytics says go for 2. He goes for 2, gets it, and then scores a touchdown, kicks the extra point to win the game.
Yeah.
So, you have to read the room. Brandon Staley was just poor at doing that. Like, let's just say that. Like, I get you don't want to play for a tie, and analytics says always go for the win, but come on, it gets you in the playoffs. Who cares if it's the Raiders? They get in the playoffs. That's all you have to do.
God.
Yeah, but I mean, I just I can't get over everything that this team did in the second half. I mean, we obviously caught some lucky breaks. I mean, Ayuk making that catch was just unbelievable. That's a tremendous amount of luck. We almost got a lucky pick. Thomas almost got a pick coming across on a slant there where he kind of juggle the ball around with, I think, Rose Reynolds or something like that. So, I mean, but that team showed up in the second half. We shut down the run, slammed the door shut. And like we had talked about, we got some pressure on Goff. And as soon as we got pressure on Goff, everything on their offense fell apart. And, you know, that was all that it took. And we were able to punch it through and keep going. And, you know, the offense clicked. I hope this shuts up the national media on Purdy. I mean, of course, he's going to get, you know, compared to Mahomes for the next 2 weeks and stuff like that. And of course, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Purdy is better than Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes has the body of work, right? And the legendary status that he has right now. And that's fine. But let's give Purdy his props. He is a second-year guy. He was the last pick in the draft. And all he's done for this franchise is win. That's all he's done. All he's done is win. He's got us in the NFC Championship 2 years in a row. He's won it the time that he actually finished the game and taken us to the Super Bowl. And there's absolutely no reason to believe that we can't win the Super Bowl with him. Whereas, you know, we had Jimmy at quarterback, you'd be sitting here and rightfully so talking about how everything has to go right and the defense has to carry the team and we've got to run the ball 30 times a game or whatever to squeak out a victory. And it's, you know, he's got to play perfect and not make any mistakes. We're not talking about that with Purdy. We're talking about him going out there and gunslinging it and making big plays and doing the things that he needs to do to win. He made huge plays all game long in that Lions game to win that game.
Yeah. I mean,
he literally read my mind.
I mean, how many scrambles did he have for like first downs? Like big scrambles, you know, there was two big scrambles. It wasn't there.
He had 5 total carries for 48 yards and the longest was 21. And that was the one that ended at the 5-yard line.
Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, he has the capabilities to lead the 49ers to a victory with his skill set. Like, his skill set is an asset to the 49ers, whereas Jimmy, you know, it was basically, you know, pray that, you know, Jimmy can just not make mistakes, you know. And with Purdy, his talent level being as he gives the 49ers the best chance to win this game, obviously, you know, better than Jimmy would have had. This is the reason why the 49ers, he's part of the reason why the 49ers are one of the favorites, or they open up as favorites to win this game, you know. And so it'll be great to see how this all pans out. And honestly, like, you know, we're talking about there was a little bit of luck in play, you know, a little bit with Brandon Ayuk catch. I want to let you know the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they had a very lucky play. You probably don't remember it, but in the divisional round game against the Falcons, Nick Foles overthrows his receiver by a lot. A Falcons player actually has the ball right there for him to catch. It hits his chest, bounces up in the air, and Torrey Smith catches it and gets in the field goal range for Jake Elliott to kick like a 50-yard field goal and go get you know, get a little closer to the Falcons at halftime. So you do need a little luck to happen in these games, because if you don't, you know, if you don't get a little luck, you're talking about maybe losing the game, you know?
Right. You read my mind. This was literally the next thing I wanted to segue into was, I know we're preaching to the choir, so to say, between the three of us and who's listening to us, but what the hell else does this kid need to do? I said the same question last week. I said the same question at the end of the regular season, but now, okay, that was the big talking point. Kyle doesn't come back. He's came back twice now, and this was even more dramatic a comeback than it was last week. Yeah. What have I been saying the entire year since we started him? He's got it right between the ears. He is so much more situationally aware, such a better decision maker, such a more confident decision maker than I love Jimmy. I thought, I have his pop figure here. He's not going anywhere. Brock Purdy annihilates him when it comes to situational football. Jimmy needed everything to be just right. The guy needed to be open. He wasn't the anticipatory thrower that Purdy is. And my God, you want to talk about growing some hair on your chest? he's got a whole Burt Reynolds chest now after this week. I am speaking hyperbolic kind of, but like, there's no reason to think like, I'm glad we're opening up his favorites, like, because there's no reason to think that he can't square up against Patrick Mahomes and make this a real game like it was last time. Like, he played better than Lamar Jackson did. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens crashed down to earth in the AFC Championship game, and Brock Purdy got kicked so hard in the nuts, and he said, all right, I'll match you. And he is a leader. He is a man among boys the way he played this past game. There's nothing else that he needs to prove, honestly. And anybody that still has, well, now he's going against the big man. Like, bro, even if we lose this game, unless he just completely craps the bed, which is not going to happen. If we lose, we're going to lose. We're going to go down swinging. Like, I don't know if that really added anything to this, but I don't know. I'm so triggered now, like, at the thought of people having anything bad to say about Purdy after yesterday. Like, and I'll admit, I thought our game was done. I was very emotional and a little crazy while I was texting you guys. But I've seen this song and dance before, and that's why I'm just so excited. We came back twice. It finally feels like, after the little scare we had in the Minnesota or the Midwest Nightmare, and then how scary it was with the Packers. Like, I don't know. I have so much confidence we can take these Chiefs. Like, yeah, the Chiefs have BS their way and are only playing good football now after being somewhat okay during the regular season. I don't know. I really got a feeling about these guys. And Brock Purdy has met every single challenge that Kyle has presented to him, and the season as a whole has presented to him. And I wish he would be MVP, but Lamar Jackson's going to get it. I don't know. It makes me mad he's not going to be MVP just because of Lamar, because he's done everything that any other MVP would have swept the award.
Well, I mean, we're only not talking about him being MVP because he had one bad game against the Ravens on national television. I mean, and that's the only reason that we're not talking about him being MVP. But I'm okay with that because the MVP has never gone on to win the Super Bowl. So that's
last year.
Oh, was it? Okay.
True. Last year and the greatest show on turf.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard that somewhere. So
no,
well, since Kurt
until last year, it hadn't been done since Kurt Warner.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
So, well, but if we can get by without having an MVP and get a Super Bowl MVP instead, then I'm okay with that. I think, it's ridiculous for people to not think that he is as good as he is. Like I said, he was leading. I mean, we talked about it on one of our shows. He was the leading vote getter and the leader in DraftKings for MVP going into that Ravens game. And then, he had the bad game against the Ravens, which I again still think was just a product of bad luck to a degree. And then, it dropped off, and all of a sudden everybody crowned Lamar the MVP. Well, how well did that work out for you? Lamar ended up not playing all that well against the Chiefs. And then here we are, we're going on to the Super Bowl. So, people are going to figure it out eventually at some point in time and put some respect on his name. Is he a system quarterback? I don't know. Maybe not. But you know what? For our system, he works, and he works great. So who cares?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you could argue, Joe Montana for a lot of his career was a system quarterback. The West Coast offense.
Exactly. 100%.
Made him who he was. Bill Walsh made him who he was. And in that system, Joe thrived. And, Joe did some of the things that Purdy is doing now, like making comeback wins. And, so there needs to be a system in place for the quarterback to be successful. You can't just plug and play a quarterback into any freaking system and expect them to play like Joe Montana or Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes or whatever. It's
a marriage. People want to discount how important the marriage is because we've seen great quarterbacks with terrible coaches, and they only go so far. You have to have a coach to balance it out. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's it is a little backhanded to say that Joe Burrow lifts their coach. But sometimes it goes like that.
It is the Bengals.
Aaron. You can argue Aaron elevated Mike McCarthy, especially with the evidence we have now. we're going to be debating forever how much Belichick and Brady elevated each other like that. But how rare it is that a quarterback is that much more important than the coach. Because usually, no, the coach is making the quarterback better. You can't tell me that CJ Stroud would have been this successful at all if he didn't have a genius like DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, well, you use James's example that he just used a little bit ago. Kurt Warner, right? Greatest show on turf. That was a system that he was in. He was in the Mike Martz system that he played in. And I mean, that was the system that they ran, was that crazy greatest show. Oh, I hated that era. I hated that era so bad. But I mean, they ran that they ran that greatest show on turf system where they were just flinging the ball everywhere and using Marshall Faulk out of the backfield and all that stuff. But I mean, he was a product of that system. I mean, it wasn't that Warner was a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously a great quarterback. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he was a product of that system that Mike Martz created. Once Warner left, the shine was completely off of Martz. Martz bounced around to how many other different franchises and never, ever replicated that again with anybody else.
Yeah. And the only coach that we have that basically has a system where multiple quarterbacks have succeeded in that system is Andy Reid, the guy you're going up against the Super Bowl. You look at from Donovan McNabb to Jeff Garcia to Michael Vick, AJ Feely. He had Alex Smith. He's won games with just about every single quarterback he has had on his roster. And so that we're not talking about Patrick Mahomes being a system quarterback. Andy Reid's system has made MVP caliber players in his system. And if you look at Donovan McNabb after he left Andy Reid, crap. AJ Feely, crap. Michael Vick didn't do anything after Andy Reid. So that's the only coach that you can sit there and say has a system and has a way of coaching up quarterbacks. And because everywhere he's gone, whatever quarterback he has had, other than Kevin Cobb and Mike McMahon, those are the only two quarterbacks he couldn't win with, and basically everybody else he could. Even AJ Feely, Coy Detmer won him a couple of games.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that Andy Reid has a system per se. I think he's just a really, really smart coach, and I think he's able to see what a guy does well, and he adapts his system. I think he's got some principles, right? He's got some concepts that he sticks with, but he's got some things that he says, oh, well, you're really good at this, so let me adapt what I do to fit more of what you do as a quarterback. So I think he really does that, and that's what makes it.
Yeah, really it's definitely true because Donovan McNabb couldn't run a 2-minute offense. No, so Andy Reid just basically took the blame whenever Donovan McNabb couldn't run a 2-minute offense or a hurry up offense and memorize 2 plays. So I think Andy, you're right. Andy will adapt his system and coach the player based on what they're good at. Yeah. And that's what he gets.
Because if you use Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes as the example, right, the last 2 quarterbacks that he's really had, what he was doing and what he was running under Alex Smith was very different than what he did and what he ran under Patrick Mahomes. Now there were some pinpoints that were similar in nature, but the Kansas City offense is drastically different with Mahomes running it than it was under Alex Smith. But that just goes to show you how well he can adapt. But I think to circle that back a little bit, I think Kyle does something similar. I think Kyle has shown that he's able to do well and get the best out of what quarterback that he has. He got an MVP season out of Matt Ryan back in the day. He got good quarterback play out of Jimmy Garoppolo, who, as soon as we saw left the 49ers, turned into a pumpkin with the Raiders, right? He was terrible. He got decent play out of the cascade of backups that we had under Garoppolo that just, floundered around because he was always hurt. And then now that he's brought Brock, that's really hard to say, brought Brock in, Brock has fit the style and the capabilities and the play that he's really wanted. And you can see Shanahan has opened up the playbook more this season to fit Brock's play style. And it's just really good to see.
Yeah, I think that Jimmy point says more about Josh McDaniels, how much he ruins talent more so than
Could be.
Jimmy was good with Jimmy. It's what I say about Brock. Brock is clearly a good player because it's that marriage. Like, because no, we only went so far with Jimmy. We only went so far with Beathard. We only went so far with all these other guys. And then clearly Jimmy is a good player that went with two great coaches. And then you saw how hard of a gravitational pull into mediocrity Josh McDaniels is with the Vegas. But anyway, I'm trying to think if there's any last talking points because I see what our time is. Was there any other last things that you guys want to mention?
We talked on the podcast about Ward shutting down the Lions receivers, and true to form, he shut down half of the field. I don't think he was traveling. I was so distraught by the game that I didn't think to pay close enough attention to it, but I don't think he was traveling with St. Brown in the first half.
Yeah,
he was in the second half.
Okay,
not in the first half, but in the second half.
Yeah, in the second half he was. And you saw in the second half, where was St. Brown? He was nowhere to be found, right? I think he had one catch in the second half is all that he had. And
shout out to Logan Ryan being higher on the depth chart than Isaiah Oliver. Isaiah Oliver firmly on the bench because when Thomas got benched, my fiance didn't know what I was talking about. I was like, oh, crap, Demo's going on the outside and Oliver's going to be on the inside. Nope, here comes 33-year-old Logan Ryan in the slot.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, Ward, I threw the stat in our chat today. Ward had whatever, like 7 passes at him and allowed like 1 reception, 7 yards, something like that. I mean, he played great coverage and took away half the field. So, I think that's another outstanding job by him. I think he's been really underrated these last 2 games. No one talks about defensive players when they don't throw the ball at him or the ball's not run to him or anything like that. But he's been really underrated in what he's been doing for the 49ers these last 2 games. He's shutting down an entire side of the field, and guys aren't even looking that direction. Guys aren't even throwing that direction. And it's really opening up things for them, what they're able to do and what they're able to roll on the coverages on the other side.
Yeah, 100%. I only noticed it was very early in the second half. Whenever I texted you guys, he's finally floating St. Brown. That was the only time I noticed him in the whole game. And that's, like you said, that's a testament to just how good he is that Goff did not want to mess with Ward at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 2 weeks in a row now. No one's really thrown at him. You can't really ask for anything more than that. And then you're just leaving Thomas and Lenore out there to do their thing on the other side with all the safety and linebacker help that they can get to double if they want. So, it makes for a good matchup, and we'll talk about it in the preview show when we get to that one. But, if we can lock down Rice with Ward on one side, that's huge for us.
The only last thing that I'll throw out there is we got out pretty injury free. I saw Kyle said that Juwan went into concussion protocol, but he came right back out. Luckily, we didn't even talk about his circus catch. Jesus Christ.
Well, I wasn't really very fond of the NBA style lob that Purdy threw up for him. That was frightening as hell. But thank goodness
every other quarterback, that's a pick. I can't believe he gets away with that as much as he does. But no, the Juwan got out of concussion protocol in game. Greenlaw had a stinger, and we're gonna get an update on Thomas's ankle. But luckily, he's got 2 weeks to nurse it. And then they'll figure out if that's way down the line. I don't even want to speculate what the rearrangement will be. But yeah, no, James.
Talk about Debo.
God, Debo was he didn't make as many. He didn't get to have any of the flashy moments. He didn't have a toe tap drag like a Juszczyk did. He didn't have the circus catch like Ayuk. But when I saw the numbers and realized how much he was involved, 8 catches for 89 yards, and he looked like Debo, man. We didn't ask him to do any jet sweeps or anything, but man, it took 3 people. It took 3 people to get him down every time he had the ball. I was just like, my heart. We're back to Debo form. Like,
way to go, Eric. Way to go. You saved the season.
Well, I mean, he did exactly what we want him to do in a game. We want him to, we needed it was exactly what we talked about. We knew Ayuk was going to get double teamed on the one side, and that's what the Lions did to him. So we knew whoever was the opposite receiver was going to have the opportunity to have a big game, right? And we thought, rightfully so, that they would keep Kittle in to block and take up Hutchinson a lot, which they seem to do. I don't think Kittle ran very many routes. I'd have to go back and look at it. I didn't pay attention. We only got targeted like 2 or 3 times. So, I mean, clearly he wasn't out there very much. But, having Debo available and open on that opposite side, like you said, 8 catches, 86 some yards. He took a few handoffs and stuff like that. I mean, it was exactly the kind of output and the expectation that we wanted to see out of him and that we needed him to be available for because, maybe we'd have got similar-ish production from Jennings as a receiver, maybe, but we wouldn't have gotten any of the running production. And I mean, every little bit of those runs helps when you can get like an 8-yard sweep with Debo.
We weren't going to get the hype that Debo, like I remember seeing, I remember when we came out at halftime and Debo made some huge catch over the middle that went for, I think like 15 or 20 yards. The way Debo got up and looked like he was like screaming, like, I mean, not angrily, but like the way Debo was just like, all right, his body language was just like, all right, cool. I made a catch. We're not making a big deal out of this. Get to the line and we're going to score right now. That kind of energy is something that Debo brings that Juwan's energetic in his own way, but he just, there's nothing. Debo's Debo. Like it's a void when he is missing on the sidelines and obviously in the play calling.
Yeah. Yeah. Juwan's pushing into a Gatorade container energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with that though, this is, oh my God, this was such a roller coaster, but we don't have 2 hours to keep breaking this down. We need to talk about our sponsor, our loyal sponsor that's been with us all season, RoyalRetros.com. What is Royal Retros? It is your go-to place to get yourself an authentic throwback jersey. Niners fans, check out their curated Candlestick Park collection that's up there right now. A lot of cool Bay Area sports memorabilia there, or jerseys, I should say there. And for anybody else, they cover every other sport, not just Bay Area sports or 49ers football. They have basketball, baseball, soccer. They cover all kinds of retro jerseys for all kinds of sports. So when you find something that you like, use the promo code Shady Sports to get 10% off of your entire order. Again, when you're checking out, use Shady Sports. It helps out the channel, it helps us out, and it gets you 10% off of your order. Again, that is RoyalRetros.com. Go get yourself an authentic throwback jersey today. James, let the people know about our charity.
So, guys, if you've been following the show all season, we've been promoting a cause because NFL owners are getting in trouble. Nobody really hears about it because the NFL doesn't say anything. But we know if a player were to do something, we'd hear about it right away. And you can see case in point to the Jed York, the CEO of the 49ers, in his insider trading scandal. And then also the Houston Texans minority owner getting charged with very serious sexual crimes in Kentucky. We know if a player had done these things, or there was an active investigation, we know about it right away. But with the cases of these two owners, the NFL knew and just basically said nothing until somebody reported on it. And so we don't think owner standards are as equal as player standards, and actually they're less than player standards. And the reason why we're upset is because the owners have said, or the NFL has said, that owner standards are supposed to be higher than player standards. So we're starting that hashtag that you see at the bottom. We're also selling shirts to help a Kentucky crisis center, and you can get them at bonfire.com. Right here is our owner standards, our less than player standards, hashtag owner accountability. $22.99 gets you that and a t-shirt, or we have different styles, different sizes, different colors. Donate to the center today. This shirt is no longer up. I should have told Dan that, so you can move right past that shirt. That shirt is no longer up.
I gave the listeners a warning that it was going to disappear, and listeners, even I didn't know it disappeared as soon as it did.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I should have told you. So that t-shirt is gone. We're no longer selling that t-shirt. So next we have our iconic podcast logo art. You can find this on Spotify or our YouTube channel, wherever you listen to us, or follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You'll find this logo. $22.99 gets you that in a t-shirt. different sizes, different styles. We have our alternate logo shirt. This shirt I have, very nice quality, different colors, different sizes. $22.99 starts with a t-shirt. And finally, our official mascot. How can you say no to a peanut eating peanuts while cheering on the San Francisco 49ers? $22.99 gets you that in a tee, or get it in different styles, different sizes. Guys, so we had a TeePublic site with these shirts. I took it down because somebody bought from TeePublic and not Bonfire. So I had to take that down. Make sure you go to bonfire.com, purchase the shirts. Niner Nuts Apparel is the first thing that comes up when you search Niner Nuts Apparel on bonfire.com. Or you can click the link in the note descriptions, or go to our Twitter page as well to get to the site in which it'll go to charity. And the person who bought that sweatshirt off of TeePublic, I'll make sure what we get from TeePublic goes to the charity. But yeah.
Yeah. I have deleted that shirt from here now since it's official. You told us, to be fair, you told us it was going to go away. I just, if you texted me, I completely missed it.
Yeah, I should have told you. I don't know if I texted it to you or not, but yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, unfortunately, the Owner Standoff shirt, because of the charity that we are kind of in the works with right now, they said, we obviously know that violence is, with these types of crimes, is not endorsed, and so we had to take that shirt down in order to move forward with the campaign.
Yeah, no, it's all good. That was just a funny moment. Anyway, guys, oh my gosh, I not gonna lie, like the only news I've seen has just been like coaching carousel stuff.
There's some good stuff. Charles Omenihu has blown his ACL. He's out for the Super Bowl. And Kadarius Toney is throwing a fit, says his injuries are not. Andy Reid says his injuries are not made up. Kadarius Toney says they are. That whole thing is a mess. So lots of drama in Chiefs world. Oh, buddy.
Oh man. Well, thank you for the update on Toney. I didn't see any update on Toney. And then I did see Omenihu. I should have remembered that because I do have a little place in my heart for him because he was a big part of us last year. But that's it. That's going to help us out a little bit, having not to worry about him. But then we're saving all the coaching carousel stuff for down the line when we can dedicate more than a little blurb for it. But yeah, we don't play next week, and we're going to be playing on February 11th in Las Vegas for all the marbles. What I texted you guys a lot last night. Again, I was a little tipsy.
Nuh-uh.
But yeah, no, just we get a week off. We'll figure out what what we're going to talk about next week. It won't be the Pro Bowl games, but yeah, no game until the 11th, guys, and we'll be playing the Chiefs. Anything else from you guys, real quick?
I'm good.
Outro music, River Road, Justin Muth.
Enjoy the week off, and then let's beat the Chiefs.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long. River Road, where have all the women gone? Have they kissed her hand and waved you bye-bye? Have they thought about crossing your double yellow lines? River Road, they love the way you whine and cry.